Lane, you're next. The California Policy Center estimates that California's total state and local government debt as of June 30th, 2017 totaled just over $1.5 trillion. That total includes all outstanding bonds, loans, and other long-term liability, along with the officially reported unfunded liability from other post-employment benefits, primarily retiree health care, as well as unfunded pension liabilities. If elected, do you have a specific plan to address this very serious issue?
Once again, I think this is an inherent problem that lies within the super minority that we currently face. I can't tell you whether Democrats like spending money more or like taxing you money more. And that's a problem that needs to be faced. I think there's a lot of room for infrastructure in this state. We are spending needless money on so many objects, such as the high-speed rail. We shouldn't be spending money on these projects. We should be spending money on the proper infrastructure to get ourselves the roadways that we need repaired, the aging bridges that need to be updated, and our water reservoir management systems that need to be improved. And absolutely, yes, I think we need to work towards helping with our unpaid pension programs. And I think we can do that through looking at our budget and finding what are we spending needless money on. How can we change that? We don't need to increase taxes. Prop 13 is coming up in 2020. They want to try and raise your property taxes past higher 1%. And Democrats are happy at that. There's already legislators that are coming out talking about how excited there's going to be, there's opportunity for room for taxes so they can increase, education for all these different programs that they want to work on. I don't think that's the right answer. I don't think increasing taxes, gas taxes, property taxes, that's not the right answer. We need to find a better way to balance our budget.
Thank you, Joe.
The best way to generate more money is through liberty. Money's like water. It always travels the path of least resistance. I've said this over and over and over for years. California's not going to do anything about it. We can scream about it. Maybe there can be some coalitions of... I'm sure the unions would love to actually get involved because they were so happy to sue Governor Schwarzenegger over the furloughing. Maybe the prison unions and all the other law enforcement unions and government employee unions, maybe they want to sue the state when the state starts being a breach of contract for not being able to fund them. Maybe those unions need to be reached out to and know that, hey, there's a lot of money in the timber out there to get some tax receipts. Maybe they need to put the pressure on, get them involved on it. I'm not a big fan of government unions. I think they should be illegal. The military can't unionize for a very good reason. It bypasses the legislative process and it's absolutely abysmal. I think unions have their place, and they do have their place in certain areas, but not in government. Government's a special situation. But we have to be able to open up economic activity to generate more funds. And we have to cut frivolous spending. But how are you going to do that? You're not going to do that in an oligarchy. It's a sad truth, and there's no way around it. And I hate to say that, but that's why I say we have to fix the republic and do everything we can to get the union involved to fix the republic, so that way we can actually have a legislative body that will take the issues seriously and try to properly manage our budget and our revenues and our economic activity.
Mr. Jones?
So the number that you gave is without a doubt an incorrect number if it came from the state of California. When you choose an actuarial company to make certain assumptions, they're always going to make those assumptions based on who's paying them to do so, and they make the numbers softer than they actually are. We've seen it in the city of Redding as well. So the number is a very high number, and in order to control, and I do have a plan with regards to the pensions and these runaway costs, which is probably the lion's share of that big number that we have, and it's growing larger and larger, and soon it'll be out of control. So the basic assumption here is that if you back up in time about 20 years ago, when we based the retirement system on a guaranteed 7.5% rate of return, we argued at that time, as I did, that that is an unrealistic number. It is not going to happen. And they were basing it on the good years and the good economy of 2001, 2, 3, and 4. And if the economy had stayed like that forever, we would never have this issue, because we were gaining 9, 10, 12% a year, and we would never have the problem that we have. But everybody knows economies go up and down, and the Great Recession taught us a great lesson that it went down sharply. Now most of these pensions are unfunded 30, 35 to 40%. When you base it on a very high rate of 7.5%, it's unrealistic and it will fail, which is what's happening. And you can't just stop it all of a sudden because they're taking money from futures to pay for the past. So we have a serious problem today. But you first have to identify, first have to start talking about the problem. Now, they have not really wanted to talk about this problem because for those folks that are getting the quality retirement, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about serious issues that might mean they might get less in the future. And so they have failed to talk about it. Now it has festered to a problem that cannot not be talked about. It must be talked about now. There is motivation now in Sacramento to start dealing with these runaway costs with regards to pensions. It's imperative. The unions are going to come to the table as well. City managers and county councils are all going to come to the table because they can no longer wait now, and they know how it's affecting their budgets, just like it is in Shasta County and in your county too. So we have to identify, start talking about the problem, identify when it started, some of these numbers that are no longer sustainable, or if ever, and then start creating a plan that slowly adjusts it. And it may be a plan that starts off with cutting the highest and or finding funding for the lowest. And so what I mean by that is a person that's making $250,000 in retirement a year, he could take a little bit larger percent cut, but a guy making only $40,000 or $50,000 in retirement really can't. And so those types of plans and options must be discussed and put everything on the table. And there is great motivation today, more than ever. If we fail to talk about these things, in 6 to 7 years, you'll see cities and counties defaulting. We can't let that happen.
Thank you. Joe, I think you're next. Over the last several years, our state has suffered from several catastrophic fires, not only to our forests, but now our cities and towns. What do you see as a solution?
The only solution is to clear the dead undergrowth, to thin the forest, to protect and strengthen our watershed. We have to manage our garden. If we treat our forest like a garden, we tend to our garden. We make sure that it's healthy, that it's strong. That way it can withstand the natural burn cycles. We don't put our firefighters at unnecessary risk, and we don't put our citizens or our infrastructure at unnecessary risk. That's the primary thing. And you could get a lot of tax receipts from the timber industry to help fund further fire suppression efforts, or have emergency funds in the event that that has to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
So in my younger years, I grew up with a forester. His name was Ray Glime. He worked for Baxter Pohl for about 45 years, and he had 20 acres. And I'd go with him on a regular basis. He was up there all the time cleaning up his 20 acres. And he had a little Jippo skidder, and he would log, the dead and dying trees. And he kept his 20 acres looking like a park. He burned all the time, did small little burns to clean up what was necessary. He would log the dead and dying trees, and sometimes just log regular trees where it was too thick. But he kept his 20 acres in a healthy condition. And I always liked going up there because I saw plenty of deer, and I'm a deer hunter, so. But they came there because the other benefits, besides having great watershed, which he had a rock creek running through his property, but the wildlife came there too. And so it taught me that that is how you manage your forest. You have to work it. We have to manage our forest today. We cannot not do it. Now, through 50 plus years of fire suppression, we now have created an ultimate problem. And it's not because fire suppression was the problem. We needed to do those things to protect property and life, but then we had to thin and manage thereafter. Fire is an integral part of nature. It's a must. Many plants and animals cannot survive without it. But we cannot have the fire today because of the conditions and the unmanaged forest that we have. And it's U.S. forests and the California forest and private lands too. But the regulation out of Sacramento doesn't understand our concerns or our problems. We have to manage those woods and thin them down. I equate it to this. If we cut half of all the trees down in Northern California, it's not enough. That's how thick it is and unhealthy it is. It also creates bugs and the beetle infestation today, so we're losing millions of trees and very valuable timber. And we don't have to tax the public at all to fix this problem because the logging industry handled it before, and they can handle it today. And they can rise up to do it if we had any common sense at all in Sacramento.
All California has done thus far is provide bills that, first of all, would create a state agency. So it's called the CEA. It's basically going to decide where funding should go for wildfire expenses. It's just a down payment on the damages that have already been done. That's what California is doing to prevent wildfire right now. We need to reduce tree density levels. We need to bring lumber back to areas in this district so we can reduce those tree density levels. We need to improve ground fuels. We need to bring back biomass. A big problem was California recently attacked biomass plants, and we lost that ability to clean up the dead shrubs and bushes throughout our forests. We need to put money back into that to increase profit for individuals going out and cleaning up our forests. We also need to have better fire prevention disaster systems. We need to work with state and local governments to make sure that areas that are in fire hazards are ready for when a fire happens. They have the funding for their first responders so they can go after those fires before they even begin. One thing I would like to do in the state legislature, when I worked for Senator Gaines and we witnessed the Carr fire, I was in Reading, and I was doing most of the grunt work for him during those Carr fires. A big issue with local officials, with firefighters and other officers, they were so busy with trying to fight the fires and prevent looters that they were having a very difficult time with evacuation notices. One thing I would like to create with OES would be to implement a state-based system that allows volunteers to get the state training they need so they can work with local officials to do evacuation notices. I think that would be a great first step towards making sure that when disaster does happen, the communities are ready to make sure that neighbors know to get out. But we still need to work on a local and state level evacuation protocols. A big problem that we saw where there was so many traffic pileups when people were trying to escape from the fires, with the fires being right next to them. We need to have better measures towards getting people out. We really need to work on our fire prevention systems.
Thank you, Joe.
I think I already answered that, didn't I? I think I started.
You did. Okay. Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Jones again. Our previous assemblyman voted in support of AB 2013, new training requirements for concealed carry permits. Can gun owners in this district count on you to oppose more restriction on their gun rights?
Slightly, yeah. Absolutely. You know, growing up in a gun shop, and my brother's an instructor. My father was an instructor before him, and we do classes every week, quite a few classes. And I would oppose any restrictions on firearms, and really I would soften up every rule that I could with regards to concealed carry. In fact, if I had my ultimate way, I believe your constitutional right to keep and bear arms is a period. You have the right to keep and bear arms, whether that's open or concealed. Now, the courts have ruled that concealed weapon permits are a permitted thing. The courts are also ruling now, and California most likely would be forced to do this, that open carry is your constitutional right. California is currently fighting that right now, but with the help of Mark Beard, I think we're going to win that case, and we're going to have open carry, and then we can work on concealed carry too. The fact of the matter is, when you get down to it, good people are going to be good and bad people are going to be bad, and that's always the way that it's been, and that's always the way that it will be. And whether you have a gun on or not is not going to make you a bad person, nor will it make you a good person. And I think the world is a safer place and a better place to carry. I think if everybody carries, it's a good thing. I'm carrying right now because I always do. And if I'm up standing, I have a gun on. Sometimes two. Tonight only one, so I feel a little naked, but usually I have two. I really believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in it. I think it's imperative. I think it's one of the key rights that you have that's trying to be taken away. And what's happening right now is they're trying to require you to do shooting, which is now mandated. I would not have signed that. We don't need people to shoot better. People can shoot just fine. If your life's in danger, you'll defend yourself. If it's not, you won't. Good people are going to be good. Bad people are going to be bad. That's the way that it is. In the future, I would like and encourage people, if we're successful, and I believe we will be successful on open carry, and I would encourage you to do so. And we don't have to be afraid or ashamed of who we are, and we do not have to be ashamed of the Second Amendment. We have that right. That is a God-given right to keep and bear arms. And I will take the gun on my ankle off and put it on my hip and carry it every day, because I believe that is our right. And the more we exercise that right, others will have to get used to it, as they should, because it is a constitutional right. No different than your First Amendment right. But we have subjected the Second Amendment to something less than that, and we should not. And I would never sign a bill. I will fight to protect the Second Amendment. No matter how small a change they talk to make it difficult, I will fight every one of them, and I will be the loudest voice against any of those tyrannical rules.
Thank you.
We are fortunate to have sheriffs that do provide concealed carry, but many sheriffs throughout California simply do not. I absolutely believe in concealed carry, I believe in open carry, and I think we should fight all of these Second Amendment rights that are coming through California. It is not the gun that kills people, it is people that use those guns to kill people. We don't need to be regulating the firearms themselves. We need to have better regulation for those who are obtaining those firearms. We need to have stricter punishment for when someone is not a responsible gun owner and a firearm is ended up using in a mass murder or a shooting, and that gun doesn't belong to that individual, it belongs to someone else. I think we should get rid of these 10-round magazine capacities. It's ridiculous that when you have an assault rifle, you have to take a bullet to release the clip. You know, if someone is going to do harm in our state, it takes maybe a minute or two to remove that little clip that makes you have to use the bullet to remove it. It's just putting restrictions on law-abiding citizens who have to go through tedious protocols to get firearms. I just bought a revolver the other day. It took me 2 hours just to purchase it. I went and picked it up today and I was in a rush to head here, so I asked if I could buy the ammo later. The guy said, sure, but when you do a background check and pay $1. $1 in a background check to buy ammo now, that is ridiculous. That is simply ridiculous. You know what it is? It's just another excuse for Democrats to tax law-abiding gun owners. And enough is enough. We really need to get out of the super minority. And you hear me preach that once, I'll be preaching that all night. Like I said, I don't think it's a crazy idea to get to 30 legislators. We need to start fighting these tax bills. And that also includes Second Amendment rights.
The Second Amendment states the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It does not say the right of the state. It does not say the right of the militia. Although every person in this room is legally militia. It doesn't matter if you are enlisted or commissioned in the military, you are still de facto militia throughout the Union. The Second Amendment is not a permission slip. It is a restriction on government. The Constitution is primarily a restriction on governments. It's an enumeration of power to sharing of powers among the states for a federal government, but it's also a restriction and a declaratory clauses of rights. The preamble to the Bill of Rights is a thing. Most people don't even know that. It specifies that further declaratory and restrictive clauses are needed, so that way the people have confidence in their government. You cannot have confidence in your government when your government wants to disarm you. Venezuela, they were just disarmed. We have a contemporary example of what happens when the people are disarmed. They're eating their pets. They're going into zoos, eating other animals. They're starving. They're fighting amongst each other for scraps. That's why I say this is a war. We have to fight this. And I can also say the amount of training as far as to introduce on something, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference in a firefight. I've been in a gunfight. I know what that's like. It's not going to make you shake any less because you're full of adrenaline and you're scared for your life. What you need to be able to do is you need to be able to draw your arm and change the dynamic of the situation. That's where the real protection comes in. We have to have armed personnel in our schools. Anybody who's has the custody of a child temporarily has to be able to be armed to defend them, or else they're criminally negligent if something happens to that child. California doesn't want us to have that. They want further restrictions on everything. But at the same time, then they're smuggling guns like former Senator Leland Yee, who's in prison now, because they're a bunch of criminals. We have to fix the republic to protect our rights, and we have to stand up for our rights. Arms are weapons of offense or armor for defense and protection of the body. There's some congressmen who say, "Oh, I carried an M4 in Iraq." It's the civilians don't need it. Well, personally, I carried an M4 in Afghanistan, and I'd have rather had my own AR-15 because I thought it was a better quality weapon. And I believe that everybody should have that because everybody needs to be able to stand up and fight a tyrannical government. Civil disobedience comes in many, many ways, and maintaining and exercising your rights is absolutely one we should maintain.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask the last question now, and it'll be followed up by a wrap-up by all the candidates. We're running out of time. You have submitted some excellent questions. We didn't get to all of them, but I would encourage you to please go and talk to the candidates when we're done this evening and ask them your questions that we weren't able to get to. Thank you. We will start with Lane. Yes or no? If elected, will you introduce legislation in the Assembly for an Article 4, Section 3 state split to form the state of Jefferson?
No. Are we allowed to explain why?
No. Joe?
Hell yes.
And of course.
Thank you. Joe, you have 3 minutes for your wrap-up.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming to attendance. Thank you very much for the invitation, even though I look silly on the flyer. But I'm running because I honestly believe that we need to stand and fight for our home. We need to make California the premier battleground state in the Union. We need a call to arms across the Union for patriots everywhere to send money to contribute to every single campaign, to try to get Republicans and liberty-loving Americans elected in every legislative body. Every race needs to be challenged. The Republican Party needs to fix itself, and it needs to challenge and support every single race. We can't go lying down. We have to take back our republic, because if we don't, we're going to turn into Venezuela, and people are going to starve to death. And people are going to be murdered by their government. It's genocide. It is a serious issue that we have to take, or else we can lose everything. We can lose our liberty, we can lose our property, and most importantly, our lives, and the lives of our loved ones. I love my wife, I love my daughter, I want to do everything I can to protect them, and I want to keep the fight here because I love the Union and the Constitution. So I would greatly appreciate your support and spreading the word. I don't have a lot of money, I'm on fixed income. I rely on the VA and the Army. They've been very generous to me, they've taken care of me very well, and I very much appreciate that. But I need support and I need help getting the message out. And we also have to be able to get the message out to other patriots in other states that they know that we are going to fight for California. California's not lost unless we give it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
And again, I'd like to thank you for having me here tonight. So with my experience, 40 years in the private sector in a family business in Shasta County, 8 years of elected service on the Redding City Council through the global recession, and 1 year as being mayor, I think I have the skill and the patience to be able to do this job. This is not an easy job. I tell this to folks all the time that, you know, once you're an assemblyman, you can certainly go down there and cast the votes, yes or no, and that's the easy way to do. But to really be effective for District 1 or for any district in California, you have to fight for those things that are important. And that's where the real difficulty of this job comes in. It is very difficult, very stressful to accomplish goals, not to just cast a vote. We know what's going to happen in the Assembly if we just simply cast votes. We will lose almost every time, except on things that the other side want. And that's the way that it is. We have to fight harder. We have to think smarter. We have to use more groups. We have to use more energy to get what we need in District 1. They are not hearing us in Sacramento. We have not spoken up loudly. We have been speaking quietly, and that has to change. I think everybody in this room recognizes that we do not like the direction that California is going. There has to be a change. We have very little years left before this state is in ruin. We have to start fighting today. I believe I'm that fighter, and I would really appreciate your vote this August 27th. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to take a quick opportunity to answer that state split question. This is what's going to happen with the California legislature if we were to pass a bill right now. They're going to gut it and change it to whatever they want it to be. They could even put, "We will never vote on this again." I've spoken with Terry Raposa in the state of Jefferson, and there's some great movements towards looking towards potential lawsuits towards making this happen. But we need to work on that, and then also work on the issues just right here in the state of California. I am running for this seat because I want to give you the best representation you deserve. I'm not running on the connections I've made. I'm running on the integrity and merit that I have built working right here in this district. I have the state experience. I know the job. I know this job because I have been doing it for Senator Daines for the past 5 years in Shasta and Siskiyou County. I want to carry your issues on both a local and state level with the pride and integrity that you deserve. This will be a full-time job for me. When I'm not in Sacramento fighting for the issues that you deem important, I will be right here in this district, working with you and making an active presence. I ask you to support me. I ask you to support me because I am a candidate with the passion, ambition, and dedication towards making change, towards rebuilding the party. My name is Lane Rickard, and I want to be your next assemblyman, fighting your fight. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate very much you taking the time to come up here.